Hi everyone and welcome to the French Watch Collector. Today on a bench we have a very special watch, a Movado, as you can see. And this watch was selected by yourself. You see, I did a poll on YouTube and it was the option number one, and he won the poll by quite a lot, actually, by 46% of the vote. So I decided to restore this watch as you wanted. So here you can see the watch. So it's Celestograf. It's a model from Movado. You can see, so he has a triple quintième. So here I'm checking like the quick set function are working. So he had a moon phase. He has a date. You can see there. He has the months, and as well he has a day of the week. So I put the watch on time grapher, and you can see the watch is the result is not really good, losing 188 or 139 seconds per day. The amplitude is very low, so this watch desperately need a good clean. And I'm quite excited to work on this watch because it's my first Movado, and from what I saw online, it's like yeah, some nice movement and some nice watch. So this one is probably from around the 50s, I would say. I don't know the exact date. Maybe somebody will be able to give more details in a comment. So let's open the watch. So there is a case back. You can see there is some probably serial number and information on the watch. Here is a movement, quite clean actually. The movement is looks good. It needs to come from the front of the watch, so I need to remove the bezel. So this watch is gold plated. It was written, or they call it gold rolled. So I think they put a layer of gold on top. So I remove the bezel and a crystal. Now I'm removing the hand. So you can see that I remove the minute and the hour hand, and there is a hand that's underneath for the date. So we're just removing with a pair of lever, and the same with the second hand there. So the second hand is quite short actually. I don't know if it's broken or if it's normal. So we see that later. Just remove the winding stem, and normally we should be able to. There is a screw there holding the movement, and we should be able to get the movement out of the way, out of the case. There we go. You can see it came from the front. So let's remove this beautiful dial. The dial is quite nice. It's quite in good shape actually from a watch which is probably like 60, 70 years old. So just gently remove the dial. You see with a plastic tool there. There we go. And underneath we can see like 3 discs with the day, the date, and the moon phase. So there is different models from what I could see on online with Movado. There is a calendograph, which is a watch which is only with the calendar function, so the triple quintième, and this one is a celestograph because we have the added moon phase which I'm removing right now. Okay, so now I remove everything, which we are left with only the mechanical part, let's say. So first I will remove the power, as always. Just the watch was a bit of wine in it, and you can see it's beating. So let's remove the power, and you can see the watch is stopping straight away. So that's generally a sign that there is a bit of friction. That's why maybe we had a low amplitude. So we'll see when we disassemble and clean the watch which kind of result we can get. I really like the movement. It's like I say, it's quite clean. You can see the jewels on a train of wheels which are surrounded by kind of a gold color metal around. I found that very nice. So just removing the balance wheel there, getting it out of the way, and you can see underneath, like all the parts, they have a beautiful finish, like which is called the perlage. Yeah, it's like a kind of like small rounds all around. So yeah, that's purely a decorative features. It's not like functional. And you can see there is different, like there is small perlage at the bottom, bigger one on the top. So yeah, that's very nice, and it's a very nice surprise when you walk on a watch and suddenly when you remove a part, you see a nice finish underneath. Okay, so now I'm removing the train bridge, train of wheel. There we go. You can see the wheels underneath. Just removing the escape. So far so good. And you can see there is these screws with like 4 holes. So I didn't know how to remove it. So I decided to take an old screwdriver and just file it into the middle. So basically I made myself a tool. So sometimes you have to be inventive. Like I tried to look online, I couldn't find any information on these screws. So I didn't know what to do, and I didn't want to damage the watch by doing like something stupid with it. So I have to think about it. And okay, I had a couple of old uh, old screwdrivers laying around. So I say, okay, I will take one, file the middles, and make a shape. And you can see actually this one is river threaded and it's working quite nice. So I'm pretty pleased with that. And that's what I like in this hobby. Sometimes you have faced with like challenges, and yeah, you have to think a bit out of the box to find a solution. I'm pretty sure there is some tools made for it, but I looked on different websites, I looked on forum, I couldn't find anything. So yeah, I didn't want. I had the movements laying down on my bench for a couple of days, and I say, okay, I have to find a solution, and that's the solution that came to my mind. And actually, it worked quite well for the disassembly. You can see some oil there, so something strange happened to this watch, like some oils like on the winding stem like side. Yeah, that's not good. So I moved to the other side. Now we are on the calendar side and the moon phase side, where we have all the mechanism. So first you see I will remove all the springs that keep the movement under tension. So just to release the tension, and after I should be able to remove all the rest of the parts quite easily. There is a lot of screws, a lot of parts. So like I do on a chronograph, I will put back the screws on the mechanism. Yeah, just even I will stay on there for the clean during the cleaning. Okay, here we go. So you can see there is actually quite a lot of parts. Just like, I mean, it's quite a complicated movement, obviously, because you will have the day, the date, the moon phase and the months on top of a standard mechanism. And you can see there is some screws which are hard to move. And at the beginning, I was worried because I said, "Oh no, the thread are damaged, and that's a very old movement. I don't know if I will be able to find like some replacement for this movement." But yeah, for now we leave the screws on the movement. I will wash the plate with the screws on, and see after if I can remove them. But I was quite scared there that something was damaged on his movement, and sometimes it's very difficult after to find the parts or to find the fix for this problem. Okay, so I carry on disassembling the rest of the parts. So you can see there like the big part, that's the pushers, where you have the quick set function for the day, and the moon phase. Okay, so now I remove most of the parts. There is a wheels in the middle. So that's a wheel that will transmit the power to drive the calendar mechanism and the moon phase. You can see there is some very, very small parts. Okay, and there is these two blue screws. That's all the top plate on the mechanism. Okay, so now I remove everything. I will remove this plate. And basically what we have underneath, you can see this beautiful perlage as well underneath. I'm removing the cannon pinion there with a Presto tool. We have the keyless work like on a standard watch. Okay, this one you see is a tiny bit different. There is a wheel because I removed the cannon pinion, the wheel underneath fell down. There is some little difference on this keyless work. We see a bit more when we reassemble it, but basically it's like any standard mechanism, like mechanical parts with just a time keeping element. So I'm removing all the parts. That's a spring. Like under this screw, there is the yoke spring. There we go. And just removing the stem and the winding pinion and the clutch, and we have all the parts there. And Here we go. The mechanism is fully disassembled. So I'm going to put back the balance assembly for cleaning. So that's a safe place. And you can see there, the movement is a bit dirty, like on the top side. And there is no perlage under where you have the mainspring, which is a bit strange, but I don't know what's the reason, but actually it's quite already nice, like because this probably was done by hand at the time on a very simple machine. So yeah, when you see this movement from the 50s, sometimes yeah, I wonder how they did it and the time they spend on decorating a movement. Okay, I'm disassembling the barrel arbor, the mainspring. Sorry, this is a barrel arbor. Cleaning the pivot. I'm cleaning the pivot with a pegwood there, just to remove any dried oil or grease. And after, when we put it in a washing machine, it will be easier to remove the dried up oil or grease. Cleaning the wheel, cleaning the pivot of the wheel there, just a gentle polish on the wheels. And I'm going to put all the parts in the baskets, and that will go in the cleaning machine. Okay, so we'll start the cleaning process. So while it's cleaning, yeah, I looked a bit of information on Movado. It was a company that produced actually quite a lot of watches. It was a very big company in beginning of 900 and up to the 60s. I think it suffered like a lot of brands in Switzerland during the quartz crisis. But yeah, they produce a lot of nice watches with nice movement, like this Celestograf. But unfortunately, this they still sell some watch, but it's nothing compared to what it was before. Actually, I saw the watches. It's mainly quartz watches, so nothing to do like when they were in their prime. So that's a shame, because there is a lot of nice brand that disappeared in the 60s and 70s with the quartz crisis. But that's what's nice with this hobby as well. It's to pick up these old watches and giving them a second life. So yeah, that's it. So now the watch is clean. I'm starting to reassemble. The parts are all cleaned up. I'm winding the mainspring with a special tool from Version, a special set, a winding set. And when it's wind, we see now we are going to remove this kind of lever which is on the top. We allow you to wind the mainspring. The mainspring is underneath in the middle, so just there I'm removing, and here we go. You see the mainspring is fully wind, so it will be ready to be put back in the barrel. First I will put some grease on the bottom of the barrel, some grease on the lid, and now we can insert. You see, with a gentle push we are dropping the mainspring inside the barrel, just putting some oil there, and I can put back the barrel arbor. And actually, oh, mistakes. I figured out that I put the grease on the wrong side, so I had to clean it and put it on the correct side. There we go. That's you want it on the side where you have the mainspring, obviously. So now I will close with this little tool. I will close the mainspring barrel. There we go. Now it's fully closed. The cover is fully down, and we can put it later on the mechanism. So the next step will be to oil the jewel from the balance assembly. So for this, on this old model, you see there is no shock setting like we can see like with Inca blocks. So I have to remove and clean manually the parts. I'm using there an oiler just to oil in the center. Here the same. On the other side, I clean the parts. I put it back in place, and I will use the same oiler just to put a drop of oil in the middle. Okay, so now it's oil. We can start to do the assembly. Put a bit of oil where we're gonna put the mainspring assembly there. There we go. It's in place. Just a drop of oil on the top there because we see some friction. Putting the screw that will keep in place the setting lever. So the setting lever screw. and I'm doing a fix or drop treatment on the escape and the pallet fork, and I'm just cleaning the pivot there of the two parts after a treatment with fix or drop. Fix or drop is a solution that will help retain the oil. We see we'll oil later the pallet fork that will retain the oil in the correct place. So yeah, that's quite important if you want to have a watch which is running quite accurately for a long period of time. So now I'm assembling back the train of wheel, putting all the wheels in their respective pivot point. You can see that the movement, the plate, the parts came out quite good as well from the cleaning. The oil and or grease that was there is totally gone, and the movement is actually not damaged. Sometimes you can see some movement as well that are scratched by watchmakers, but this movement is quite in good shape. So I'm really careful. You can see I'm always using plastic tools or my tweezers, my brass tweezers, which is quite soft. Yeah, that's important. Okay, you see the train of wheel is in place. It just dropped, the bridge dropped, so the wheels are turning. So we can drop the screws and secure the plate in place. There we go, perfect. Now we are going to put the mainspring bridge. Much easier to put because the pivot points are bigger, obviously, and there are only 2 points there, so it's easier to put in place. So the same, just using plastic and my brass tweezers to push it in place and secure it with the screws. Okay, so next we are going to put like the click spring and the ratchet and the crown wheels. And you remember this as well, like the crown and the ratchet wheel with this very strange screw. Actually, I don't know what's the function of this. Why they did screws with these shapes on it. No, you don't have like you cannot put a blade in the middle. So I don't know what's the reason. It probably was a reason. I don't know if it's maybe like sometimes you can see some brands making their own screws and own screwdrivers. Like other people cannot work on them if they don't have the tool. I don't know if that was the reason, or if it was for the torque, it was easier to torque the screw. I'm not sure, but I found it quite strange. And you can see there I'm using my homemade screwdriver again to put it back in place gently. There we go. This one is reverse threaded on the crown, as always when you have a screw in the middle. Now I'm putting the ratchet wheel. Just need to make sure the click is in the right place, in the groove, like in between the teeth. There we go. It's fully in place. So now I can put the second strange screw, and there we go. Now screwing it in place. Perfect. So we are done with this side. We are moving on to the dial side. Putting a bit of grease first on the wheel on there. I'm going to put it in place. Putting the clutch, some grease in the middle, and I can put the winding stem. There we go. So now we are going to assemble the rest of the keyless work, and you will see this one is a bit different. So first the setting lever, which is kept in place with a screw, so I have to screw it from the other side. I do it off camera because it's quite tricky to do. First there is this spring there, okay? So normally on other watches, you have a setting lever spring, but normally come on the top over everything. And this one is on the side with these two little screws. So that's a bit different compared to other movement on what you can see. So your yoke spring, this is pretty standard. Always a strong spring, so you always need to keep it in place with one part. You see, I'm with one tool. Putting some oil there, and this is the yoke. You see the yoke is very different, like this side which is round. So I need to arm the spring with one pair of tweezers, put the yoke, just need to make sure it's laying down in the middle of the clutch here. So you see, I will move the clutch a bit down. Yeah, here we go. The yoke is sitting right down, and I will gently release the pressure of the spring, and everything is in place. So I can secure again everything with the screw. Perfect. So you see, it's a bit of a different design. Yeah, normally the yoke is like a long kind of a long bar. It's not like with rotating parts, like, which is so big around. So yeah, putting grease between all the points which are in contact metal to metal, cleaning the excess always. Putting oil where we're going to put the cannon pinion. Putting oil on the jewel there, because I will not have access to this jewel after when I put the minute wheel there. So always remember to oil the jewel first. And I put these parts that will keep the minute wheel in place. And now I'm oiling all the other jewels, moving to the other side, oiling the jewels, same way. So that's for sure, like there is a good lubrication in all the pivot points. And normally, if everything is done correctly, we should have a good amplitude on the watch, but we see that at the end. Okay, putting back the pallet fork. Even the pallet fork cock has a nice finish on the top with this beautiful perlage, very small perlage. Okay, pressing it down just to make sure the pallet fork is aligned, top and bottom. There we go. And now we'll have the moment of truth. We are going to put a bit of wine first, putting some power in the watch. We see if the power is coming to the pallet fork first. Yes, it does. You see it clicking, so it means the power is coming. I'm oiling, so that's why you remember I treat it with some product like to retain the oil. So now I'm putting the oil on the pallet fork, and that will lubricate the pallet fork and the escape wheel. So that's what's the purpose of the fixer drop that we put a bit earlier. And now I'm putting the balance assembly. Remember, I oiled the jewel from the balance assembly already at the beginning. So let's see if the watch wants to start. Dropping in place gently. Now we need to align all the pivot points, like we need to align, just make sure it sits in the right place. Just putting a bit of pressure there on the balance just to close it. It's still not there in the right place, you can see. Oh, it wanted to start, but it did not. Slowly. You can see it's not laying down flat, so it's just lifting it up a bit. And oh, you see it went just a tiny movement, and it fell in the right place, and now it's moving. So perfect, we have a runner, and looks like the running looks quite healthy as well. It's beating quite fast. So we see a bit later what's the result. So now we have assembled basically what's the timekeeping. So now we have a mechanism that will give you the time if you want, but only the time. And you can see what was clever at the time is they added an extra plate on the top for the added complication. So the moon phase, the day, the date, and the months. So it's kind of a modular mechanism. We have the standard movement underneath, and now on top of it, it's like a sandwich, it's like layers. They added the complication. So first we put the plates, and we are going to put back now each parts that will drive and the calendar mechanism. You remember when I disassembled the calendar mechanism, it was two screws that I could not remove, and I decided to clean the plate like this. Actually, after cleaning, one of the screw came straight away, so maybe it was a bit of dirt, or like it helped, the cleaning helped to free the screws, but one of the screw was still stuck, was turning, but very hard. And actually, you see like all these raised point where you have a hole and a thread. I thought there was one part with the plate, but actually they are like separated parts. So they drilled the main plate and they put this little raised basically pivot point. Yeah, it's two parts. So basically I hold the raised point there with a tweezer, and I was able to remove the screw, because actually it was this pivot point that was turning inside the plate. So yeah, that's quite amazing as well, like the level of work that they have to do to machine like this little pivot points there. You see, for example, the one where I'm putting the screw there, is quite amazing. It was not machined from one piece of metal. It was a thin plate, and after they added all this raised point, where we have the, like you can see, like for example, this pivot point as well is one of these raised point where you have a threaded parts in the middle. Is quite impressive, yeah. So you can see I'm oiling all the pivot point, putting the part, putting the screws, and when all the parts are in, now it's exactly the opposite what I did when I disassemble. When all the parts are in place, I will add the springs. So that's a first spring. I will add the spring that will keep, you see, up. Now I'm putting the tension that will keep the part under tension, and I'm putting the grease as well. So I'm putting this blue grease, which is quite thick. It's heavy grease. It's yeah, high viscosity. So that's when you have like a point which is contact metal to metal with a lot of pressure. And obviously, when you have a spring, the main function of the spring is to apply pressure against the part. So yeah, you need to lubricate it with the proper grease. Okay, so now I'm carrying on putting, you see the spring, putting them in place, arming the spring, there we go, against the part, putting the screws. There is quite a lot of part actually on this mechanism, and that made me wonder, when you have a calendar mechanism which is perpetual, which is an annual or annual calendar, so your perpetual calendar, it must be so complicated, because already these movements are a bit more complicated with this extra complication. But if you have a perpetual calendar, I cannot imagine how much more difficult and how much more parts you have on the mechanism. Okay, so now same, putting some lubrication where you will have the springs. So these springs are a bit less tension in them. So now I move on a case. So you can see I will disassemble the pushers. So there is 3 pushers that's allowed to do the quick sight function. So I will remove them. So you will have a screw, you will have a spring, and you will have the pusher, obviously, which is on the outside. All of this will go into the ultrasonic machine to get clean. You can see removing the pusher there. Some of them up, there we go. And this one, jump with the spring, but it did not go very far. There we go. And you can see they are quite dirty. So I will put them in this little basket, and I will put that in ultrasonic machine with the case as well. Okay, so while it's in an ultrasonic machine, I will just do a quick clean on the dial with just a bit of distilled water, just a quick clean, drying it, and a gentle polish on the numbers and hour markers, just to give it a bit of a shine. Nothing fancy, just it was already quite in good shape, and I didn't want to damage anything. Same on the hand, I just do a gentle polish on the hand just to give them a bit of extra shine. Okay, so the case came out of the ultrasonic machine, so now we can reassemble the pushers. So you can see I put some grease there. That's just to add a bit of, even if it's not a watch which is watertight, but actually the grease will prevent any kind of debris or anything, dust or stuff like that, to go inside of the watch. Even if it's not perfect, it's not sealed, but it will help, yeah. Okay, so the case is ready. So now the last step, I will put all the little discs. So first the moon face. You can see with this moon and the stars. I don't know if it's like, it looks like almost a gold leaf. It's very shiny. I'm not sure if it is, but yeah, it's very nice finish. Putting the day. There you go. You can see it's in French. And the months, obviously. There we go. So now all the discs are in, just secure them with the screw. So we are done with the mechanism. Just checking, quick side date, moon phase, months, yes, working perfectly. And in the center we have the wheel. Yes, the wheel in the center is for the date. And we have a jump, so we can see when we change the time, we have a jump for the day and the date, and a bit later on, the moon phase. So that's quite good. That's perfect. So let's put back the dial. I was just, remember, just I did a gentle clean on the dial, a little polish on our hand, on our marker, sorry. There we go. And now that the dial is in place, we can put the hand. So first, that's a hand for the date, the hour hand, in a second position there. I will align it to midnight. Here we go. Just I will push it in place with my hand setting tool. The minute hand, again, I will align it to midnight. Just push it in place. Perfect. And now we can check, the next check will be to see if the hands are not touching each other. And if the movement, you see the, perfect, we have a jump of the day and a date just 5 minutes before midnight. I'm quite pleased with it. So yeah, I like it to be 15 minutes, 15 before or after midnight, but 5 minutes before, I'm more than happy. Okay, so now the dial and the movements are ready, so I can put it back in a case. Just push like the pusher underneath. There we go. Just push a pusher, and the movement can lay down flat in the case. Last clean if there is any dust or marks on the dial. Just checking. Moon phase, date, months. Yeah, everything is changing. Just putting back the winding stem and the crown. I changed the crystal as well. I put a new crystal. There we go. Just a gentle press. It's just press fit. You can do it actually with your finger. And now I just put this screw, which is holding the mechanism in the case. Really tricky to work. I don't like to work so close to the balance wheel when it's working. And just put back the case back. And here is the result. You can see the amplitude is quite good at 310 degrees. You remember it was very low, and it was gaining 188 seconds per day. And now we can see it's just around between 5 and 2 seconds. And the beat error is perfect, is at 0. So I'm very happy with the restoration on his watch. Remember, it's a watch which is more than 60, 70 years old. Yeah, I'm very happy. This is a very, very iconic watch, a Celestograf from Movado. Very pleased with the result. And here you can see the final product on my wrist. And I will leave you with some pictures and some shots of the final watch. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy your watch, and I see you next time. Bye bye.